I absolutely hated that deck. And the reason I hated it was because
Welcome to the Deck Rebel, a limited series that dives deep into the journey of Sean McAleer. Over the past several decades, Sean has reshaped outdoor living, transforming the humble backyard deck into a luxurious year-round extension of the home. Hi Sean, how are you?
great, Kelly. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. First and foremost, congratulations on the new book. This must be so exciting for you.
It's very exciting. It's been a long time. I put a lot of work into this. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time.
What I really want to know is, how did this all begin, Sean? How did this all start?
Started to go to work with my father in his architectural woodworking shop, very young age. I mean, 8, 9, I was working there, obviously not working, but wax on, wax off, sweeping the floors, and spent my summers there all the way up through high school, Saturdays during the year, and I didn't know how much I loved it until actually I took a break from it at one point, and I just had to go back. And it's just building stuff, designing stuff, it's just in my DNA.
So we can say that you really learned that foundation from your father?
Yep, master carpenter, the man. I didn't appreciate it, and I would hear it from other people how talented he was, but he would design and build cherry libraries and just coffered ceilings and all kinds of crazy cool stuff. And for a kid growing up, this is what your dad's telling you to do. You don't know how great it is until you get older and you get some perspective and you're like, oh my God, this is like world-class stuff that he was doing. So it was pretty cool.
So when did you build your first deck?
My first actual deck project, I actually built for my best friend's parents, and I was at freshman, sophomore in high school of like 15, 16, I guess. I literally had to swipe my dad's tools, and I rode my bike to my friend's house. My friend's parents got the lumber delivered, and I would go there and work after school and on Saturdays building this deck. And I don't know, I got paid a few $100, but it was like golden. I absolutely hated that deck. And the reason I hated it was because, as you can imagine, I'm growing up working in a wood shop with hardwoods, cherry, absolutely love cherry and oak and ash and all these different hardwoods, super stable. And I go to build this deck out of pressure treated pine, and pressure treated pine is garbage. Like, I had no idea. The wood is wet. You can't finish it like you would finish an interior stuff. That was very frustrating for me. I was like trying to make this like the beautiful stuff that I had learned to make, and I'm dealing with wet wood. And anybody that's ever worked with pressure treated lumber knows how much it twists and warps and checks. And I went to go get lunch at one point, and it's the middle of summer, 100 degrees out, whatever. The board's laying on the deck. When I come back, they're basically pretzels, because they all warped and twisted and dry. And I had no idea. And I spent so much time on that deck trying to get it to look like I wanted it to look. And I was just like, I hated it.
So at 16, building your first deck, what was your path like after high school? Did you go to trade school?
I did go to trade school. I actually went to the CIA, Culinary Institute, got a scholarship there. I was fortunate through high school. I was in Votech, so I was cooking in Votech. Funny story, exploratory year in Votech, I had carpentry and I had cooking. My uncle was a chef, so that was a passion of mine, but I also had carpentry, and I actually failed carpentry class because Mr. Bowles, the carpentry teacher, so he's telling us we had to build this house in this warehouse, and he wants to put down sill plates, and he's telling them to glue it down. And I went and got the Hilti gun, which is what we would use to frame stuff when we were working in the city. And he yelled at me and everything, and I, of course, being a smart ass, said, you're teaching these kids the wrong way, this is not how you do it in the real world, and everything else. And because I thought I knew better, because I spent so many years working in the city and doing that kind of stuff. So I didn't do well in that class. So I bailed on that. And I actually went into cooking. So I actually did well in that class and got a CIA scholarship.
So wait a second, you're a trained chef?
I'm a trained chef, but when I graduated, after going through that whole program and everything, a few-year program and graduating, and went to work at a 4-star restaurant and spent about a year there, I just couldn't stay there anymore. I had to get back in the field. I hadn't built anything in like 3 years, and I was just missed it. I knew that's where I had to go. That was my passion. I love cooking, it's creative, but it was not like what I had grown up doing, the building and everything else, and I literally just couldn't wait to get back with a hammer in my hand.
So you decided to follow your passion. Where did that take you?
My first job ever, I refinished my neighbor's basement. So that was like 13, 14. So I'd done some residential stuff locally, and then I built that deck, which I was not happy with. So I didn't want to build decks at that point. What I did was I went into siding, roofing, add levels. I did build some decks and spent a few years doing that, and realized that the guys I was working with, I could do better. So, it's always, I could do better, right? I started my own company, and before long I was framing whole houses, I was doing major additions, and that gave me a lot of exposure to working with architects and working on a big scale, So I was, taking lots down, doing site work, working with guys doing site work, just really from ground up construction. That gave me a really good perspective that has paid dividends moving into the deck space and in the backyard space.
So you're doing all this residential construction, new homes, additions. How did you end up building decks again?
Another twist in my road. So as we were building, the economy wasn't doing great, things were slowing down. I knew I needed more education to do what I do. I had my degree from CIA, but that was not what I needed. So I decided to go back to college full-time for my business degree, marketing degree. And so I had to cut back. I couldn't be doing these big projects where I had to be on site every single day. So I scaled back and I went back to what I had started with, which was siding, roofing, doing decks as well, even though, not a big fan of pressure treated decks. But we started doing it, and the deck portion of the program, we got a lot of calls for that, a lot of referrals for that. So we were doing a lot of pressure treated decks. And one of the things with pressure treated decks that I had learned was you need to seal them and maintain them in order for them not to warp and twist. So all this work that we put into this didn't look, like crap in a couple of years, right? So I did a lot of research, deep dive into that. Actually met with some of the national manufacturers of different products, and I started sealing the decks that I was building for the clients, and they looked phenomenal. So now I've got the next door neighbor, they want their deck sealed too. So this kind of snowballs, and I'm doing as much deck maintenance as I am doing deck building. A whole bunch of guys working all through the season, doing the deck maintenance and everything. And it got to the point where it was a lot of just production stuff, building pressure treated decks, sealing them. That was not my passion. I wanted to design stuff. I wanted to do high quality stuff. I got the opportunity. I was at a guy's house, and his deck was totally shot. And I said, you need to rebuild the deck. And I had just hired a very, very talented carpenter. And so I said, I want to do this. I'll do this for you, but I'm not doing it pressure treated. Ipe was just coming into fashion at that point right there. So I designed an Ipe deck with grappa inlays, which is another hardwood. So beautiful blonde inlay in this Ipe deck, which is a reddish brown color. And I was fortunate that this guy was like, just do whatever you want. And so he said, do whatever you want. So I went back to my architectural woodworking days. I did plinth blocks, I did layered profile fascias. I told this guy at one point when he was ordering Ipe furniture, I said, this deck is gonna be nicer than the furniture you order. And when he was unwrapping that furniture, he said to me, you're right, the deck is nicer than the furniture. It was all hidden fasteners, rosettes. We did just way over the top. I didn't make any money on that job, but that was a turning point for me. I said, this is what I want to do. This is all I want to do. I don't want to build pressure treated decks. I don't want to maintain decks. This is all I want to do. So that got me back, that lit the spark of design, and this is what I want to do.
So especially in the earlier phases of your career, I'm sure you saw a lot of crazy stuff. Was there ever a deck that kind of scared you, made you nervous to work on it or with it?
I think the one that literally blew my mind, my jaw dropped. Got a call from a property manager to go look at some decks on a building, on a property we had been working on. And it was on the other side of the property, and they weren't supposed to get repaired or anything done with them. They were relatively new. And I went to take a look at these decks, and I walked around the corner, and at this property, all of the decks were basically balconies off the back, second floor, 8 foot out from the house. And I came around the corner and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They had done an 8 foot cantilever on the 8 foot deck. So basically the beam that holds up the deck was in the center and the deck was balancing. And these things they were set up for, grills out there, tables, chairs, everything. And it scared the hell out of me, because if somebody's on that deck, if more people move to the outside than the inside, the whole thing falls. I mean,
so
it's
a seesaw.
like a seesaw. It's absolutely. It just scared the hell out of me. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth when I called the property manager, and it turns out later on they had hired some contractor, the people at the building. They wanted to make them bigger. They never got permits. And they came in and sistered in joists and just extended the deck 8 feet. Like, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. It scared the hell out of me.
So how has the concept of the deck evolved into what it is today and what we know now as this outdoor living experience?
We have outdoor living spaces, decks, right? We always start with the deck normally. They're covered spaces. They have heaters, ceiling fans. Oftentimes we have screens, beautiful lighting. It was always my passion to take the indoors out. Like I told you, when I was building the first pressure treated deck, and I wanted to do it like the architectural woodwork that I had grown up building. Bringing that kind of level outside to spaces and giving people as beautiful a space outside as they have inside that was driving passion of mine to be able to do that. And today that's become the norm. Well, it's not the norm. There's a lot of decks that are built other ways. But for us, that's what we do. And there's a bunch of guys across the country that are at that same level, that build beautiful extensions of the home. It's not just a deck anymore in the back. It's really a lifestyle upgrade. It's an extension on the home. It makes you feel like you're on vacation. You've got everything out there. You've got the heaters, the TVs. I mean, it's just a beautiful space to hang out with the family and friends. That's where we are today. Like I said, where we started before, basically pressure treated rectangles in the back of houses. So we had started doing curves, experimenting with heating and bending boards, and it's kind of a natural state. When you're transitioning from the house, which is all hard corners and angles, and you're transitioning to nature, which is that space in between, that outdoor living space, right? It's soft curves, like the curves in nature. So that was one of the things that I wanted to do with that. So I started experimenting with that and doing curves, and that was a whole process. I didn't know anybody that was doing it. And there was a couple of people doing it, but we were using very rudimentary stuff to heat those boards and get it out there. But the evolution of that was, when we got really good at that, was a circular fire lounge. So we did a circular fire lounge, a couple of different iterations, one with stone on it, right? I told you about that. And that was a raised one. And then we did one where we dropped it down and we had our steps going into it, the PVC, gas fireplace. But my drive behind that was with the curved couches, because curved couches had just come out and were very popular, right? So people use them on their patios and stuff. Actually, they weren't even that popular at that time. Now they're popular. But I had seen one and I thought, how cool would that be if we could set up a space like that, like on an elevated deck, right? So I designed this, and the first couple of ones, too big, too small. Then we found out the size of the couches we needed and the spacing from the fire that we needed, and really dialed it in, and it created a space. I was at a party for all hands on deck party, right? One of my clients, they were debuting their deck, and we had done one of the first fire lounges for them, and it was so cool that After we had done eating, everybody was done eating, people just migrated over to the lounge area and all hung out in a circle around the fire. We were elevated, there was a beautiful view of the property, and it was just such a great conversation space.
Now that we know how it all started, stay tuned for next time when Sean reveals his most groundbreaking design element, the one that redefined outdoor living. You won't want to miss it.